So, my next question is about frequency holders, which is a concept that Eckhart Tolle brings up in his book A New Earth. And here's what he has to say about what he terms frequency holders. It's a quote. Others, after the natural expansion that comes with growing up has run its course, lead an outwardly unremarkable, seemingly more passive and relatively uneventful existence. They are more inward-looking by nature, and for them the outward movement into form is minimal. They would rather return home than go out. Some of them find it hard to fit into this world. Some are lucky enough to find a protective niche where they can lead a relatively sheltered life, a job that provides them with a regular income, or a small business of their own. In past ages, they would probably have been called contemplatives. There's no place for them, it seems, in our contemporary civilization. On the arising new earth, however, their role is just as vital as that of the creators, the doers, the reformers. Their function is to anchor the frequency of the new consciousness on the planet. I call them frequency holders. They are here to generate consciousness through the activities of daily life, through their interactions as well as through just being. In this way, they endow the seemingly insignificant with profound meaning. Their task is to bring spacious stillness into this world by being absolutely present in whatever they do. There is consciousness and therefore quality in what they do, even the simplest task. Their purpose is to do everything in a sacred manner. As each human being is an integral part of the collective human consciousness, they affect the world much more deeply than is visible on the surface of their lives. So it's basically this concept of you don't necessarily have to actively participate, and you can make a positive contribution just through your state of consciousness, even if all you do is stay home and meditate.
That's true, but it's not really a winner in the sense that it is true that you don't have to make a big splash. You don't have to be important. You don't have to do any of that. You can be very humble and inconspicuous. But the idea that you can just stay home and whatever, it would be much better if you got out and engaged rather than stayed home. Just staying home and not engaging is taking something that's very valuable and hiding it. And it's very valuable for other people. But it's true that if you take people who are grown up and let them mix with people who's not grown up, the not grown up people will tend to grow up more. It's a growing thing. That collective consciousness, the opposite end of that's the mob, right? The mob, everybody's angry. Well, together, they're more angry than any one of them would be alone. They'll do worse deeds and do more despicable things together as a mob because their anger forms this collective consciousness of anger, which then drives all their anger even more angry, which drives it even more angry, and they get to this point where they're out of their minds angry and they do a lot of crazy things. Whereas any one of them alone would not go to that out of their mind angry spot. So that's the collective consciousness. You have a bunch of people who are well developed, who have low entropy and high quality consciousness. The people around them get to be pulled up with less anger, makes them feel better. They see bigger pictures more easily. So to have that and not interact with your community, to stay home and just stay with each other, well, it'll still help a little bit because you still go out to the grocery store, you still walk your dog and meet people, you still do a few things. So you will still contribute in that sort of way. But you could contribute a whole lot more if you were more connected, to your fellow man. If you got involved in things, you did things, engaged in things. So that would be that would even be better. So yes, he's right. That is a good thing, and it is helpful. So nothing he said is wrong, but I could think it would be more helpful if they didn't stay home, if they joined an organization, volunteered someplace, just interacted with people, because they have a valuable gift, which is a gift of a high quality of consciousness. And the more they interact with people, the more good they'll do in the world. So, if they're introverts and don't like to go out, well, they're introverts and don't like to go out. Maybe instead of going out, they'll write books like Eckhart Tolle, and maybe millions of people will read their books and be affected by it. So, you don't have to go out. You could do other things, but just staying in your house and doing your knitting or watching TV or something is kind of a waste of a rare and very valuable commodity. So I would encourage them, if they're not going to write books or give seminars or teach classes and meditation or do things in their community. I mean, they could do some things in their community, but they should at least get out and meet people and make connections. Now, so that's a good thing. Now, there's a few things that kind of rubbed me slightly the wrong way in this idea, and they're not really so much wrong things as things that are metaphors, like the word frequency. I think frequency is a very overused metaphor in the New Age community. As you evolve, you raise your frequency. As you de-evolve, you lower your frequency. Frequency is a very material thing. Frequency means something oscillates, something oscillates. In consciousness, there's no such thing as frequency. Frequency doesn't exist. Frequency is a thing that does this, and then you count how many times a second it does that, and that's frequency. Frequency requires motion. Motion is a physical thing. So you take a word that only has meaning in the physical context and turn it into a descriptor of the non-physical. This is a misfit in my mind. So the New Age does that a lot. It's all about tuning your frequency and getting to a higher frequency. And I don't mind so much, but it doesn't help people see that consciousness is not a part of the physical world. That the physical world is a place that you go do things in order to test, if you will, or grow your quality of consciousness. And that it's not just tuning it. Tuning it makes it, I got to tune my frequency, or I got to raise my frequency. It makes it sound like it's a mechanical thing that you have to do. Like, if I pray every Sunday, I'll raise my frequency. That kind of thing. If I do this or do that, if I meditate, an hour a day, I'll raise my frequency. It doesn't work like that. You have to grow up, and just doing things to make you grow up isn't the right attitude. You have to change yourselves at the being level to grow up. It isn't about acting. It's about being different. And the word tuning just doesn't capture that. Tuning makes it feel like it's some kind of some recipe you go through, some, mechanical thing you do, some process that you get involved in that will tune you to a higher frequency. Oh, take my meditation class and you'll tune to a higher frequency. And that's all nonsense. It just gives the stuff that is consciousness based more of a mechanical feel to it that is not quite right. So that's my reason for not really liking the word frequency being used. It's a word that doesn't really describe how consciousness works, and it tends to lead people to think that there's a prescription, a method that will help you, lower your entropy and increase the quality of your consciousness. There isn't. There's nothing that you do that will do that. It has to be what you be. There's no action or series of actions or incantations or, rituals or anything else that's going to affect your quality of consciousness. Anyway, so that's just one kind of minor pick. It's kind of a new agey term that I don't care for very much. And the other one is they would just kind of sit home and contemplate, right? And think big thoughts and be happy and have good vibes and that sort of thing. Well, that's nice, but contemplation by itself is not really very useful. It is for yourself, but just doing things for yourself is not very useful in the sense that you could be doing things for other people. So I would say contemplate if it helps you grow up. Think about yourself and who you are and why you do the things you do, and use that to grow up. Contemplation's good. Self-inspection, looking at yourself, trying to improve yourself. Very good thing to do. But then go out and live it. Go out in the world and live it, because lots of people can contemplate, and intellectually they think, well, this is good and I should be this way and that way. And they kind of convince themselves that they're highly evolved beings, but they've never gone out and lived it. If they haven't gone out and lived it, they probably aren't it. They probably haven't developed it. That's what makes it real. That's what enables you to own it, is going out and living it. Then you own it. That's why Eckhart had to live on a park bench for a year or two. He had to own it. He had to be his, not just an idea he had. That's all in the intellect. Oh, I had this idea and I can write a book about my idea. But that's different than actually becoming it, which he did. He became it, but it's only because he put in the hard work of living it, going out in the world and being that way. You see? So the contemplative life of thinking about things and being happy and being a high quality individual is all very nice. But to grow up, unless those individuals are just happy being stuck where they are, to grow up, they need to get out in the world and live it, try out their ideas, learn, and then share, which is what I said first. They have to get out and share with the world. But also they have to own it first. Otherwise, it all stays in here. The contemplative life is a cerebral life. And you can convince yourself of all sorts of things. And you can convince yourself you're the most grown up, most loving, most caring person on the planet. And when you get out on the mean streets, you're none of those things. You're a frightened child, and you wish you had a gun or something. It's just you're none of those things. So that's my kind of the picky fault that I would have with that. What he said is true. It could be a lot more true if he had emphasized that the people who do contemplate and they think good thoughts and they are well developed, they need to get out and own it, and they need to get out and share it. Valuable information is really nice, but shared valuable information is even nicer. It's useful to have this wonderful information, great, good for you, but sharing it is even more important. So write a book, give lectures, teach meditation, go volunteer at the hospital, volunteer to run a Cub Scout pack, do something to help share and help you own it, so you really walk your talk as well as just think your talk. So those would be kind of my comments on that. And the last thing is that Eckhart kind of made it sound like this was their job, like this was their, this is what they were meant to do. They were just to come here and be that. And that kind of hit me just a little wrong too. It's not their job. It's not that, okay, they come back to this world and they incarnate here because their job is just to hang out and stay home and be good people. And my comment to that was nonsense. These people are just individuals who have grown up significantly more than the average and are sharing themselves with us. They have no job or task or purpose other than to continue growing up and sharing that knowledge or that attainment with others. I mean, that's everybody's job. It's not like they are special people with the special job of having their low entropy lives amongst us, and that's what they're here to do. Nonsense. Nobody has a job. Their job is the same job as my job and your job and everybody else's job. Their job is to grow up. However much grown they are, it's not to sit back and say, oh, I'm grown up. I'm just going to sit here and contemplate and let my glow help everybody else around me. That's not what it's about. Their job is to keep growing up, grow up more. And you don't do that by sitting home contemplating. Well, you may for some, but then you got to get out and do it. Walk the talk, you know, show what you're really like and who you really are, because that not only helps you grow up, but it helps everybody around you grow up. It's like I talk about one of your questions once. I talked about living in a cave, being a hermit, where you live by yourself for 10 or 20 years. And that supposedly is to make you really, really low entropy and grown out. You've grown up, when you finally walk out of your cave 20 years later. But it doesn't work that way. You grow up by interacting with other people. You grow up by being challenged. You grow up by having to deal with a rough and tumble world and still be caring and positive. You have to walk your talk. You got to get out and interact, or you're not really going to grow up much. You're just going to grow up in your own mind. You're going to feel very grown up. You're going to feel like, you're the mightiest of all wizards, the highest of all the high, because you've been 20 years in a cave meditating all this time. And obviously that'd make you grown up, but you can meditate 1,000 years and still not be grown up a bit. You got to get out and interact. You got to walk the talk. You can't just talk about it. Do it in a cave. That's not how it works. This whole idea in this virtual reality is to get out there and interact and have to make choices and make good choices. That's the whole point of being in the virtual reality. Otherwise, we wouldn't need a virtual reality. Just lock each person in the chat room up and make them stay by themselves, and see if they don't come all out enlightened for their time incarcerated in their cell. That's not really what it's about. So no, they don't come here with that's their job. Their job is the same job they've always had and always will have, and that's to grow up and be helpful to people. That's their job. And that's just everybody's job. That's not just their job. So they're no different than anyone else. Like, these are a special group and class of people who come here to share their glow with us. I thought was just wrong. That isn't really what it's about at all. Now, he's making a point that to be very spiritual, you don't have to make a big splash. You don't have to, get your name in headlines, or you don't have to be known by 1,000 people. You can just live a very simple life. That's true. Making a big splash is not necessary. You can be a very high quality person and live quietly in your neighborhood, but not locked in your house sharing your glow. You gotta get out and connect and be helpful. Find ways to contribute to your community. Find ways to be helpful. There's so many ways that you can help, that staying home and glowing for the benefit of the larger society just doesn't seem to me like a very good idea. So they're not special people who have this job. That's all right. Maybe that's a metaphor. I say you have a job, and that's to grow up. So I've given you a job too, but it's not a special job. It's a job that everything with a consciousness has. Even my dog has that job, to grow up. So it's nothing unique about that. So other than that, what he says is accurate and it is true, but I think it's just lacking in some more explanation. And he may
Yes.
have meant all the things that I said and just expected people would get that out of it. I don't know. And he uses the new age word frequency, which I think that he could find something better to say that would be less mechanical sounding, like there's some way that you can tune yourself to a higher quality of consciousness. Because you hear that a lot, you go to this retreat and raise your frequency. Well, going to a retreat is not going to raise your frequency. Growing up is going to change you. And it's not about frequency. Frequency and consciousness doesn't even make sense. There is no frequency in consciousness.
Yes.
Maybe that's just me, the physicist, that's hung up on a definition. I don't know.
Okay, Tom, thank you. That it does make a lot of sense, and I'm glad you gave that nuance to the concept.
I and MBT Events hope you liked this video. We will continue to post videos for free on my YouTube channel, but please understand, these videos are expensive to produce. They represent many thousands of hours of production and editing, as well as all the necessary audiovisual equipment, computers, and software. If you find something of significant value in our videos, please consider supporting their production through our Patreon account or through a one-time donation. It would be very much appreciated. The links are in the description below. Thank you.